to wrap up the NYFC game, Dave, because it ended up being a 2-2 draw, but we are up.
No, Toronto, I mean.
Yeah, Toronto. Sorry,
Yeah.
Toronto.
Go ahead.
Toronto game, we're up 2-1, and there is literally 45 seconds left in extra time.
Right.
The ball is at midfield for Toronto, and we let them score. And we did not have a defensive posture.
Do we have that highlight? Can we call that up, Carmen?
Let's see if I can
because
do it.
keep going, Mikey Dawes, while she tries to call it up.
Yeah, no, it just it really
it's
speaks.
The very end of that highlight reel for sure. Okay. It's the last play of the game.
It just shows, right, that there's some common sense that's missing when you're on the road. You have an opportunity to get 3 points, and I don't know, like I'd love to see what is happening on the sidelines in the technical area for Pineda in terms of him screaming for people to stay back and get good positioning to park the bus, but it was definitely not happening. There's a moment here where you'll see Lennon runs up the field. Who's our right there, our right back. Okay, that's a perfect. That's even that's fine. Right?
Go back just a second. Yeah. Okay. Play it again and not yet.
Nah, it's after this play. So
ready and freeze it.
Midfield. So our right fullback decides to be in an area where Araujo.
You can name him.
Araujo should be Lennon. Lennon should be back into the right, which we keep talking about over and over again on this podcast. There is a player that receives it out on the far side where Araujo can spin his wheels with his fat and just be pestering all day. Right. But we're not set up that way. We see Lennon panicking, running up the field into an area where a forward could and should already be, but not the case.
So here's the thing. So we talked about it early in the season, right? So what do we think is the reason why Atlanta United has gotten off to a better than we expected start? Because I think Pineda should get a ton of credit for what I think is the big difference is he has stopped us having both outside backs going all the time. It has really been Lennon bombing all the time. Robinson is pinching over. When Robinson wasn't there, when he was on national team duty, it was an epic disaster, right? We got annihilated at Columbus because of that. It's because this is a lopsided craziness. But anyway, the bottom line is he's keeping 3 in the back, right? And so, but what I said earlier on the podcast, and I wish it weren't coming true, I said, I don't really think that Pineda truly appreciates how important that is for this team. And I said, for example, if you really thought that that was such a difference, that late in the game, you would say, all right, Lennon, stop going forward, understand. And I said, look, what if we're on the road, like in one of the big matches, like LAFC or something, and we got a 1-goal lead, right? If you really understood that, you would say stop, and he would be back. Well, here it is, folks, okay. Right? We are up 2-1. We are on the road at Toronto where we never win, and
yeah, so hold on. Yeah, before we play this, damn it, the last frame shows Gutman's in the bottom right. So we do have 4 back, Dave. So I just want you to analyze like the back line.
Because he's brought in Abram as an extra back right at this point. So he might say, okay, look, I did that.
No, I'm just talking about like our shape, right? So we have 4 in the back, and then is that Sosa right in front. So it's not like we don't have people back.
Right.
Okay. And then in front of the referee, if I'm not mistaken, who's playing where Lennon should be is Araujo. Who's not a defensive-minded player, right? He's our creative breakaway speed guy, right? So one thing that stands out here is we have the 2 players in the wrong position. This is the biggest problem of this whole frame. Everything else is relatively okay, other than the fact that I would say maybe Sosa should be pushing up on the other guy in front of the referee there. Sosa's got all the time in the world, and there's 20 yards between. So Sosa might not be as urgently pressing that space as he could be. I think that is a problem. but I want to say that Lennon and Araujo should be in.
Wait, which one are you saying?
switching roles.
Sosa's below.
Sosa's
the referee.
closer to you, to the referee.
Yeah, that one.
And should be closer to the player that's wide open in the middle of the field, right? Because he has no other responsibilities, right?
Yeah, he's going over there.
Yeah,
and he
but
hasn't
why
closed
is
it
there?
down.
That's like
I think they just switched it.
that's like 20 yards.
So he is recovering over there. But anyway, okay. I
Right?
go by that.
But more importantly, right, is Lennon and Araujo should be flip flopped in this situation. Lennon should be playing a defensive fullback position, which is what we want from somebody in that role, aka Aaron Hernandez, right? To be marking the guy that's about to receive the ball, play it back, and da.
So as part of this system, he has still occasionally asked when Lennon is up. So what was killing us last year is Lennon, and in this case it would be Wiley, but it was Gutman last year, were up the field, and he was asking Sosa and Ibarra and the center midfielder and Sejdic to cover in behind them. Because Gutman and now Wiley is staying back, we don't have that as much, but he's still with Lennon forward. He has now at least conceded that it shouldn't be a center midfielder. And we've stopped having nobody in the center midfield because they were always going out there and wasting all their energy. So Robinson is supposed to be over there covering for that. Now Robinson is coming out there and he's not quite out there. I don't know why he's not out there earlier. But anyway, the bottom line is clearly, as it's been happening Araujo is covering in behind Lennon.
But
the
the whole
madness.
The whole thing is a symptom of giving Lennon too much freedom to be offensive as a fullback. And knowing in the 93rd minute here that your job is defense, and who is the guy that's in the back right here that you should be marking up, and let Araujo be the luxury player and pester where this guy's
there is
involved.
45 seconds and you are truly a defender, you are going over to the guy and you are saying to Araujo, you go. Yeah. This is my guy. Get the hell out of my defensive place.
Exactly.
Yes.
Right?
But that's not a defender.
That's not a defender.
It's like pressing all the buttons right now.
Put him in a straitjacket.
Which was that? There we go.
Yeah.
Somebody should put a straitjacket on this guy.
Yeah, and that guy would be Lennon or Pineda, who's not yelling at Lennon, right?
It's the same. It is like this is why we lost the game, is because look, Brooks Lennon is doing what he's being told to do. He's running around, closing the space.
I think he's being told that he's the best offensive thing since Maradona, and he should keep going forward. And he's been given the proverbial green light to go. And because he's been given the green light, I do think that Pineda is not stupid enough to say, I think you shouldn't be going forward with 45 seconds to go. A la Fred in the World Cup, who was chasing it to the front corner for Brazil. Right? I mean, that's the definition of moron.
This is what happens. Araujo is realizing it's the end of the game, and he's like, "Well, I don't need to be up because
he's like, what are you doing?"
He's like, I don't need to be up because." So he's trying to be defensive minded, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, this natural gap happens where if he knew that his fullback was being a fullback, he actually wouldn't be where he is.
Right.
So the whole thing is a symptom of what is in our DNA. And at the end of the game, like that's why this is happening.
Plus, Lennon is running up to challenge him, right? Why? He's touching the touchline. He's at midfield. Right? Like
he's getting sucked in.
Yeah.
He's getting sucked in for what?
Because I think there's no thought put into it whatsoever. Right? That's my point.
You've completely talked about this before. Like the fact that situationally we can't. There's like the head's not there in these situations.
And also, okay, if you like, this is again another frame where you're not watching good soccer. Okay, and we talk about this, right? Because this is 93 minutes.
Explain to people what you mean by that.
All right, so we talk about like watching good soccer, like the view of this in the 93rd minute versus say like a Fulham, right? That is defending for their lives in the last minute of an EPL relegation game.
Mm-hmm.
They would not be this spread out. There'd
be two banks of four.
There would be two banks of four and a ton of I mean, there would be just so much discipline in what you're seeing here. You're like, how are they lined up like little chess pieces? Because they know they will get kicked off the team if they are not in those positions, Brooks Lennon. Stay back right. I mean, literally, that's why you're watching bad soccer.
Atlanta United has allowed it to be stretched in this case, right? And the interesting thing is Pineda has made the decision here to try and kill off the game because he brought in another center back, Abram, right? But yet, even though he's done that, he still can't get through to the team discipline enough where we don't have Lennon charging out like like
which is why
Gettysburg or something.
Why you see Araujo kind of
charging up the middle,
I know.
Like it's
like trying to be
madness.
Trying to be a hero, running up there.
That didn't work in Gettysburg, by the way.
No, we did not.
A lot of people died.
We want to watch it.
Yeah,
let's watch it play out here.
And it's in behind him, and now Araujo.
So Araujo's like, "Oh, I got to defend."
Yeah,
it's too late.
Now the other thing about this play, and let's go back, because the other thing that we've been talking about whether Purata is good enough. Right. So as soon as Araujo gets absolutely, he gets caught napping, which is fine. That's the kind of player he is. Right. Robinson goes over to challenge him and he tries to block the cross. He's got his hands behind the back, the whole thing. He slides and he forces a ball back in. Right. But look at Purata. He's running back with Sosa.
Yeah.
Right. And instead of actually going out to address that play, he's double teaming the guy in the middle while the guy scores.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right. So watch Sosa on this play. Sosa's right behind the ref. Play it again.
Yeah.
Right. Sosa comes in here and he goes to double keep. He takes the free guy and tries to get back there. Right. He recognizes the danger, right, and tries to recover to it because he gets there.
I didn't love Sosa's positioning.
I agree. He was scrambling coming from across, but now go back and play it one more time and watch Purata the whole time. So Purata starts with the guy.
I see what
watch Purata. He goes with the guy, even though Abrams is the other back who's already back there. He's not realizing that I am supposed to release because we have another center back.
Yeah.
He could have come over there and make that play. Instead, Sosa's trying to track it from midfield. Because the guy who scores, go back one more time. The guy who scores. All right. The guy who scores starts next to him, but runs right into. Oh, no, it's not the guy who scores. The guy who scores comes from in front of them. And Purata never releases that guy. Him and Abrams didn't talk. He didn't release. Yeah.
So a tie that feels totally like a loss.